And I am pleased to have Shelley Hamill on the line with us today. We're going to be doing a little interview session on the topic of bragging, which will be interesting. But Shelley is an executive coach. She does team building workshops around personal branding and leadership for companies. So for those people who run organizations that have employees, this will be highly of interest to you for sure. So Shelley, welcome and thank you for joining me here.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm really happy to be here and get started on bragging.
Perfect. I think this is an interesting topic that's actually not covered a lot. So uh, first question would be, why is this topic so important, and why is self-promotion so important?
Well, when organizations know what you stand for, the value that you bring, um, your skills, your expertise, then you can really leverage that and they can leverage it. And we work in such a busy world, and I think about it. People work at home, we work remotely, we have bosses in different cities, states, countries, and we may not even be with the teams that we're working with or supporting because everybody's remote. And so this becomes, self-promotion becomes even more important. And if you think about it, for companies, they know who to put in the right job, who to promote, who to hire, and make sure that they're leveraging those skills. And for individuals, it helps individuals gain the appropriate visibility because, again, they may be remote. And while people see that you're doing a good job, they may not really know what it takes to do that good job. And that's why self-promotion becomes so important, especially in today's world.
So you speak about self-promotion. I know there's probably people listening to this that think, well, self-promotion to me means bragging, and maybe they have a picture in their mind of someone in their office who they would consider a braggart, and they don't want to be anything like that. So in your own words, what is the difference between self-promotion and bragging?
I think the best way to state this is when we think about a braggart, someone who just goes on, it's somebody who's loud and basically it's empty boasting. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is what truly your accomplishments are, what your skills are, what you've done, and the value that you bring. And what I hear so often is that people hope that others notice their capabilities, that they hope that others know how hard they're working and the value that they bring. And hope isn't a plan. And when I talk with executives, this is one area that they highlight, and they might say, I think Shelley does a really good job, and Stephen does a really good job, and I'm looking at succession planning, or I'm looking at what their next steps might be. I'm just wondering, can they step into these larger shoes? Do they have the capabilities to take on a bigger team, or more complexity or more ambiguity? And you may already be doing those things, but they may not know that. Again, they know you're doing a really good job and you work hard, but they may not know, again, sort of these differentiators. And that's where self-promotion is so important. So unless you're out there, and most people aren't, bragging, again, this empty boasting, really what we're talking about is making sure that others know who you are, where you add value, and how you can help them.
And I think that's the key, because sometimes we would consider any kind of self-promotion sometimes bragging, but you're right, it's about the other person's perspective. It's the other manager's or director's viewpoint of your abilities. So it's not bragging, it's just communicating. That's a big
Yeah,
difference.
that's correct. Yes, again, we just associate that bragging has taken on such a negative connotation, and I'm saying go for it, brag, tell people who you are, what you're capable of, but again, don't make it this empty, boastful, person where everybody wants to turn their nose up and say yuck, but rather, here's who I am and what I'm capable of, and let me help because this is what I do well, and maybe you don't do that as well.
So what are some suggestions for self-promoting?
Well, I could probably boil it down to three simple things, but how about if we just looked at a do and a don't list? And so there's really one important don't, And that's what we've been talking about all along. Don't, don't go out there and boast and, just empty promises and taking credit for things that you didn't do. So if we put that aside and sort of redefine bragging in this positive light, there's really three do's for successful bragging or self-promotion. And the first one that comes to mind is really a simple one, which is just create a soundbite for yourself. Create something, I call this your brand, but create a soundbite that just depicts the value that you bring. So maybe you're somebody that is really good at solving complex problems or tough, ambiguous situations with really creative approaches. So create your soundbite around that. I'm someone who knows how to tackle tough problems with creative solutions. So that's really suggestion number one. Secondly, think about sitting down with your boss and communicating this. And I know this sounds kind of silly, but if your boss doesn't even know what you're capable of, how can you expect others? And so just simply sitting down with the boss and saying, hey there, I know we've been working together now for a year, and I know that you see all the projects that I've completed and all the success that we've had as a team, but I want you to know that I'm someone who's really good at solving complex problems by coming up with creative approaches. And as such, I'd really welcome other opportunities where I can leverage those skills. And by the way, as you're thinking about this and thinking about my future, where should I be looking and where can I really leverage these skills moving forward? So I think that's another really good step to take. And then maybe the third one, and again, a really easy one, but probably the one that most people now are going to cringe, is when we start a meeting or a conference call, instead of starting the meeting with the ho-hum, here's our agenda, we're going to be on this call or in this meeting for the next hour, take a look at your agendas. Instead, start with something proactive, something that really sort of outlines why you're all there, but again, can point to where you add value. So again, going back to that just simple soundbite, we're all here today to solve some really complex problems. We've got some tough decisions to make, and I want you to know that I'm someone that really is good at applying creative solutions to tough problems, and we've got a lot of really great expertise in the room today or on the call today, and I know that we can come up with some creative approaches. Now let's look at the agenda and jump in. So those are really, I think, the three main things that I would suggest.
Those are three excellent points. Those are perfect. And I'd recommend anybody to re-listen to this video again, because those 3 points you want to make sure you take notes on. Those are key. Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate it. One other real quick thing. I know we're kind of running a little short on time, but there was a LinkedIn poll that was done fairly recently. Let me have you speak on that for just a minute and let us know, from the poll, what you found out from other people and some of the interesting results of that poll.
So I recently did a LinkedIn poll, and I asked people what they struggle with most about their brand, and the number one response that 25% of the people said that they struggle with is communicating the value that they bring. So basically communicating their brand. And so that's exactly what I was talking about when I said create your soundbite and start letting people know it's the hardest thing. People are really struggling with this. But I will tell you that as you start communicating this, what's going to happen is people might say one of a few things. They might say, wow, I didn't realize you did that. I've got this other issue I'd love you to take a look at. Or they're going to start following you. What I mean by following you is they're going to want to be on teams and projects with you because they're going to say, this is somebody that I want to be involved in because there's somebody who's really good at this. So while most people struggle with this, the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. And again, just a simple way to do it is to create just that soundbite. What's that thing that you do that really truly adds value?
Wonderful. Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate it. How can people reach you? What's your email address? If you want to give a phone number and the website.
Sure. So you can reach out to me at shamel@thesagealliance.com. You can also reach me via phone, 404-680-6186. And my website is www.thesagealliance.com. I welcome all your comments and successes, and go out there and brag.
Perfect. I think you'll get a lot of comments because this is a topic that, again, like we were saying before, isn't really covered, and people haven't felt comfortable bragging, and now they have maybe a different perspective, different insight around self-promotion. So thank you for that, Shelley. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.